Anandya, please
Hello.
try.
Yeah.
Hello.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Okay. So, hello guys. This is Anand Bansal, and you can please can you just take to the next slide? Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Oh
So,
yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
has the
Okay.
slide
Now I can
changed
see.
today?
Yeah. 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 Now it's changed. Yeah.
Yes.
So, guys, I have put the slide purposefully. I just wanted to point two things here. First of all, that you can see that I've highlighted that I didn't had any internship. First of all, and secondly, also my code forces rating wasn't that good. So here I want to make a point that you don't have to be that good. What should I say? The not that good competitive coder. If you know your fundamentals and you know the coding concepts, then still you can crack a company. Next slide, please. So I guess you guys have only 1 month left. So without talking about any timelines or so, I'll just get to the point. So for coding, I found these really helpful. Interview bit, once you should do it, that is a must. Uh, is the slide gone or hello? Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So interview bit, if you are iterating it twice, that's really good, and I will recommend it. If you want to revise some coding questions, then go through the interview bit once again. It really has some good questions, and the variety is covered there. Now, if the interview bit is once complete, you can move on to lead code. Lead code mainly focus on the medium level questions, and for hard level questions, you can go to like there are tags on the lead code top 100 like questions or frequently asked questions. And if you're done with that, you can explore more. GFG, I mostly use GFG for finding solutions if I needed to for like if coding snippets I want to find. And contests, I would recommend that all of you should give contests because it builds temperament. Like if you are sitting 3 hours or 2 hours and thinking about questions, it builds your temperament, and this will really help in your coding tests. So code forces, try to give code forces and try to just complete the A, B, and C questions of it. If you are doing all these questions, then you can obviously go for D and E and F. But try to solve these, and after giving contest, just go through the solutions that they give. And there are many YouTubers also which discuss solutions after the code forces like contests. So just iterate through them over once. And also lead code has a very good contest. There are weekly and bi-weekly contests, mostly on the weekends, I suppose. And there are only 4 questions asked, and they are uh, straightforward questions. They are not like code forces where the whole story is given to you. So I would recommend give these 2 contests at least. Next slide. Yeah. And for some topics, I found these things really helpful. For dynamic programming, there was a playlist by this guy, Aditya Verma. He taught the DP from the basics. Like if you guys are having any problem in the recursive method or even in tabular form, then he explained it really well. Like I find it very helpful. After that, if you guys want to like iterative method, want to go for iterative method, then this is a channel on YouTube, Pep Coding. This guy taught really well the tabular form, the iterative method for the dynamic programming, and he covered a lot of variety of questions. So basically, if you will go there, you will find that the questions are that video is 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long. So basically, what you can do is you can go on 2x speed and just see. He first explains the question, listen to the question, think about it. If you are not able to think about it, then see the explanation that he gives. He really gave a well like really good explanation. And 2 to 3 questions which this guy taught actually came in the examination that I saw. Okay, and yeah, so these two topics are that you should focus upon, DP and graphs. For graphs, there is a channel, Code and Code. This guy also really taught really well, and this guy also moved to Coding Ninjas. So he became a tutor on Coding Ninjas now. So yeah, I have attached the links over here. You will be getting the PPT, so you can go through all these. And if you are getting any problem in calculating time and space complexity, so there is this legendary guy Abdul Bari on YouTube. You can go through his videos also. Yeah, next slide. So for CS fundamentals, like this is the really good time. If you haven't started CS fundamentals, I would recommend just start it. They're really important for both interview and test point of view. So for OOPS, there is on GFG whole course of OOPS is available, and there are practice questions also. So this is enough. If you are completing this GFG site, then it is enough for OOPS. And also like what we and our friends did, like we were 5 or 6 people in a group, and we took one topic each, and we used to make others like teach others that topic. So it like we remembered it for a really long time. So I would recommend if you can do that, it will be really helpful. Next is operating system. So operating system, there was one playlist by Gate Smashers. It's a little bit long playlist, but you can go to you can use 2x speed, no problem in that, you will understand. And if you are not willing to watch the videos, then there is one cheat sheet by Love Babbar. Many of you have heard it already, I suppose. I didn't use the cheat sheet, but my friends recommended it, so you can see to that as well. Okay, next is DBMS. Okay, and I have mentioned these in increasing order of priority. So first priority is OOPS and OS. Then if you are completed with that, go for DBMS. And again for DBMS, I have attached links for videos of Gate Smashers. The upper two links are of Gate Smashers only. And if you want to practice SQL queries, you can go for this HackerRank. HackerRank have nice questions on that for practice SQLs. And in like previous years placement tests, there were SQL queries asked in the like examinations, coding tests. Yeah, so just practice that some. And after you have done all these, and if the time permits, then after that only go for computer networks, because computer networks it isn't asked that much, and it is a huge topic. Like if you read 2 or 3 topics also, basics are also like very much. So I didn't find any question which like I read some topics, but that question was from some other level only. So no point in wasting time if you are not done with the above 3 topics. And if you are done with that, you can study system design also. There is one guy, Gaurav Sen. He teaches really good. Like he is famous for system design. I suppose everybody reads from there only. Yeah. So next slide. Yeah, so that was all the resources. And for the coding tests, there are some tips like previous year's questions and questions from other colleges. These are available. And like there are some docs shared, I guess, or the groups are formed on Telegram or Discord from all the IITs and NITs. There people you are like people you post questions, like whichever companies come to their college, they post their questions. So just do those questions before you are sitting for the test of that company. Many questions are really repeated, and there were many cases where the questions from one company were repeating in another company also. So if you get one question from the company, just see that you are able to complete it, because it can be repeated in other tests also. And just get familiarized with the platforms. Mostly they use HackerRank or HackerEarth. Yeah, and while solving a problem, if you find like think of a optimized solution first. Whenever you see a question in the test, think of optimized solution. If you are not getting an optimized solution, then only go for the brute force. If you are not able to code brute force also, then at least try to code some sample test cases which are given there. And also you can like try to print the test cases which are there, and you can hard code those. Like this method not always works, but at least you can try if you are not getting brute force method. And one more thing, like if there are MCQs, like some MCQs are like that, they have given the code snippet. You can actually run those code snippets in the IDE that they give for coding, and directly you can get the answer from there. So no need to iterate whole code. This will just save your time. Yeah, so these were the points which I kept in my mind. Yeah, next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So interviews. So first of all, they won't be judging you on how, like, if your solution is correct or not. In interview, they are simply going to judge how you approach a problem. Always communicate with the interviewer. Like, there shouldn't be a time gap between, like, there should be a time gap where you are not speaking anything. If you are thinking something, just say what you are thinking. And if when you are given a question in coding interview, think of the procedure first and explain the procedure first, like before coding it. And always think of the corner cases and tell the interviewer about the corner cases, and your code, make sure your code covers those corner cases. This one thing which I found, like my friend was giving Google interview, and he was using this for int I equal to 0, I less than an I plus plus, and his interviewer told, what you are doing, this is not the correct way to, like, this is not the industry standard. So you have to give meaningful variable names like the one I've showed in the example. Also, after coding it, just don't say that, okay, I've completed, you can see. Just dry run your code on one or two examples that you have to pick those examples by yourself and dry run them. If, like, I'm not sure if you are going to give your interviews offline this year, but just if you are giving, then take a paper pen and draw, like if you're iterating through an array, show them that you are iterating and do the dry run properly. And for preparing interviews, this practice really helped a lot. Mock interviews with your friends, the friends who have got the PPO and all those things, you can do that. It really helps. It builds the confidence. And for the HR questions, yeah, like you don't have to spend time on HR questions now. You can do that after your NSEMs, before the interviews. There is a 3 to 4 days gap, I guess. That those are enough for HR questions. You can just Google it, common HR questions, and you can just prepare an answer script what you have to say, like uh, about the culture of the company or what the company does, or your uh, personal anything. So yeah, and know your company before the interview. They might ask why do you want to join this company, or what are our goals, visions, and culture, etc. So just iterate through the website of the company once before you are sitting for the interview. So yeah, this was the thing. And if I share my interview experience, so my interview was scheduled around 1 a.m. On 1st December. And so that guy came and asked me to introduce myself. So I introduced it, and I mentioned there I have a CSE minor. So he asked, like, what is there to taught, like what is taught to you? So I told that I, like, they teach OS in one semester. So he straight away took OS and gave me a question on virtual memory. So here I want to point out, like, whatever you say in your intro, just expect one or two questions that are going from there, that are going to come from there. And then he asked one coding questions. It was a mixture of linked list and stacks. I don't exactly remember the question, but like he gave me a notepad and he asked me to code there. And then he told me to dry run the code, and that was all. Like, I didn't have to submit on some platform or something else. Then in the HR interview, I only got 2 rounds. There were 3 rounds for some people as well. then the HR came and he asked me about polymorphism, again, OOPS concept. And yeah, and then the normal HR questions were there, like why do you want to join the company, what attracted you, and that's all. And I also sat for the Apple interview. In that, in the first round they asked 3 to 4 coding questions. They were based on trees. And yeah, and they had some platform. I had to submit the code on that platform. And I went to the second round as well, but second round they were looking for the people who had some experience or that. So after that, I was not eligible for the next round. Yeah, that's all from my side. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Or you can post it
Thank
in
you,
the chat.
Anand
Yeah.
Bhaiya. So if you guys have any more questions, you can post in the chat. Anand Bhaiya will be there for some time and he'll be answering your questions in the chat. So coming up, we have the core profile, and the core profile will be covered by Surya Bhaiya. So is Surya Bhaiya there?
Hello all, am I audible? Can someone confirm?
Yes, Bhaiya, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, hello all, I am Surya Shrikar, and I'll be briefly going through the core profile preparation. So, firstly, I want to show this slide to all who think there are very few companies in core. It is not very few. It is, yeah, we do have quite a number of companies visiting our college, and if you count the number of profiles here along with the companies, you will have around 15 plus profiles for which companies are coming in the core profile. So broadly, if you classify, you will have analog, digital, and then electrical, and few roles of communication as well. So this is just for reference. Yeah, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so for the preparation, so for the preparation, it's mostly similar to the internships for those who have already prepared for TI, Qualcomm, NVIDIA interns. So the preparation is quite similar. You'll have to go through Morris Mano very, thoroughly until chapter 7. All those topics until sequential circuits, followed by counters and these registers. So it's a very that's the first book. I mean, it's the Bible for digital design. After that, of course, whatever circuits you're designing in Morris Mano, you also need to know how to do them in Verilog, because some companies do ask, be it a test or an interview, they do ask Verilog related questions. They either, I mean, in the test you will get to see some syntax related questions. And in the interview, they'll actually ask you to write the code and explain what kind of hardware you're realizing and how can you be more efficient. So for that, you can go through Verilog as well. I've written the source here. And for those who need to work on projects or practice Verilog, you have the links here. And one important topic which people usually don't know is about IC design. Basically, you need to know, I think you were taught CMOS inverter in the digital course. So CMOS inverter is just beginning. So if you see here, this digital integrated circuits by Rabe. So you'll have, you will know how to design flip-flops and combinational circuits at the transistor level. And it's a very important topic. Some companies actually look for transistor level design. And again, you'll have some like optimizations to make in that, to use fewer number of transistors. So that's you can cover those topics in that book. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. There are two other important topics. If you see, there's actually we'll go to the next slide. We'll skip this. I actually talk about it again. Yeah. So these this is basically the overview of what topics you need to prepare, be it digital, analog, or electrical, or communication, or whatever. So in core, depending on your interest or your preferable company, you can, these are the topics. The most important topic which everyone, be it analog or digital, everyone should know is electrical networks. Basically RC network analysis, nodal analysis, mesh analysis. This is something which everyone asks in the exams or in the interview. Doesn't matter whether you're sitting for digital or analog. Then you have digital design, DSP concepts, communication concepts, etc. So we'll go through them one by one in detail. Next profile, next slide, please. Yeah, can we go to the next slide? Yes. So yeah, this is the same thing that I've repeated here, but in little more detail. So Morris Mano, as I've already told you about it. Then you have this textbook by Patterson. So this is a very important textbook for two main concepts that are asked by digital companies. You have pipelining and cache. So in pipelining, one must know how to pipeline any digital circuit. First of all, you should know what is pipelining. Pipelining is, you should know the essence of pipelining and why pipelining comes into picture. You should also know how to pipeline any given combinational circuit. And you should also know what kind of hazards you will face while pipelining. Pipelining is not something you can apply to every digital circuit. You will have to, there are some kind of hazards, some issues you face while pipelining a circuit. So you must know everything when you are pipelining. So you can read about all those topics in this textbook, which I mentioned here. Pipelining is a very important topic. After that, you have another topic called cache. So it's basically related to memory architectures. Digital companies love to ask questions in cache because cache is a very logical concept. If you know the concept, then you can just apply a simple logic to calculate your answers or whatever. So in chapter 5, you can read about cache. I think you should also read about how you design memories, like how does an SRAM cell work? How does a DRAM cell work? You should know what kind of cell structure each one has. It is different and one is better over the other for some reason. So you should know that. That's a very basic thing. That's about cache. Yes, after cache, you have the static timing analysis, which I said I'll talk about later. So this is the most important topic for TI actually. So TI loves giving different circuits, and then they ask you to analyze the timing. They give you they give the delays for each block, and then you have to see whether the whole time is satisfied, and based on the setup time, you should be able to tell the clock cycle in the clock period, etc. So, and they keep changing the circuit, and yeah, they'll ask which circuit is better in terms of delay, etc. So timing analysis is very important. This particular link, I think you're not able to open it. I'll type this link in the chat window so that you can visit that website. 8085, not really necessary. You should, if you know it, it's good, but not. You just need to know the architecture of any general microprocessor, not just 8085. just the 5-stage microprocessor architecture. That is important. Computer net arithmetic, one another very important topic. What the interviewers will ask is they'll ask you to compute. For example, there is a polynomial equation. Let us say x square plus x plus 1. So you may need to draw the digital circuit for that. So x square is the multiplier, x is and plus x plus 1 is an adder. So you need to be able to draw the most optimum digital circuit for this. So there are different architectures and adders. You must have just studied about triple carry and carry lookup adder in your digital course. There are other architectures. There are something called tree adders, which are very important. So if you're, this is all for polynomial computation basically. So you can practice that. There is no proper resource for this. You can just read in the internet about tree adders, and similarly multipliers as well. If you want to do x square, x cube, etc. So and I would encourage that once you draw your adders, you pipeline them and then study their timing by imagining your own delays and study everything. You should analyze the entire circuit by yourself. It's not just that you draw the adder and then it's done. In the interview, they may suddenly ask you to pipeline this circuit, or they may ask you the advantages or disadvantages, because it's the circuit that you have drawn. And tree adders are not like some kind of, it's not just one type of adder. In this meeting, each one of you can draw a different tree adder. So you should know why one tree adder is better than the other. So that's how it is. Next slide, please. Yes. So puzzles, sometimes some companies like to ask some puzzles related to digital design. And their puzzles in the sense not very, they are very simple kind of questions. They may ask like maybe in timing, they may ask why a particular circuit fails, or they may ask, there are some concepts called glitches. So, and glitches and stuck at 0, stuck at 1. So these you can read about them. So like a particular combinational circuit can be stuck at a particular state depending on how you reduce it in the K-map. So that comes under puzzles basically. You can reduce the K-map reduction can be done in multiple ways, as all of you know. In it's a so actually one way of reducing it in K-map is better than the other. If you see at a very small scale, you can understand that. So these are the commander puzzles. You can read about glitches and stuck at 1, stuck at 0 logics. And then VLSI CMOS, as I already said in the like 2-3 slides ago, it's basically about CMOS inverters, CMOS AND gates, CMOS NAND gates, CMOS NOR gates, CMOS flip-flops, CMOS multiplexers. You should know how to design all of them in CMOS level. So you can first read mainly CMOS. After that, you have something called pass transistor and transmission gate logic. If you're done with CMOS, I would encourage you to go to the other two logics. If you're done with that also, then there are multiple logics which I don't want to speak here. If you can directly ask me, then I'll tell you. So the main things you should know is CMOS logic, pass transistor, and transmission gate. This is what is required. And yeah, you can visit that YouTube channel. You'll get some videos on the same topic. And yeah, other small topics which you can cover in the last minute if you have time, or metastability that comes under timing analysis. Then you have something called ring oscillators. That's another topic which comes under CMOS. And hazards are important. You should cover them before, not in the last minute. You should cover them before. And yeah, about this is some like some CS type concept. You should know the difference between fixed point and floating point representation. Yeah, and basics of that. Yeah, we'll go to the next slide. And Verilog, yes, I already told you, you should know how to write the Verilog code for every circuit that you design. And you should also know the difference between a normal Verilog code and a synthesizable Verilog code. All Verilog codes are not synthesizable. That's another thing. You should know that. And you should know how to model delays, how to pipeline in Verilog, and non-blocking, blocking. That's a basic thing. So these are the things in Verilog you should know. It's a must. And then you have something in DSP. So similar to adders, you can also, for the people who have studied DSP, you know that you have some architectures for FIR filters. And let us say any filter, for example, is just a summation, and multiplied by some constant. So you can actually draw FIR filters in different architectures. So you should know which architecture is better and how you can pipeline those architectures again. Similar to what I said in tree adders, you should know how to play around with FIR filters as well. TI likes to ask questions in FIR filters, etc. So that's about this. Next slide, please. I think that's the end of digital. So if you come to analog now, uh, you will have network theory, something common for everyone, not just digital or electrical or analog people. So you should know network theory, and by network theory, it's a general thing. You should know RC networks, then the pole zero analysis of RC networks, and steady state response for every kind of input. You have impulse response, then step response, then ramp response, and Q factors, everything. You should be able to, it should be on your fingertips. Whatever, I give you a random circuit, you should be able to quickly analyze and give the step response. Step response is the most important, step and impulse response. And then in analog basics, this is for people who are preparing for analog. So you diodes, they rarely ask. Yeah, diodes are important for test because TI, I sometimes saw that TI actually fills their tests with diode questions. For any random question, they put a diode in between and ask you how to solve it. And yeah, it's not a very trivial thing. You should know how to analyze diode circuits. And that's purely for test. In interview, they won't go into diodes. And when you come to interviews, you should know basics of these MOSFET amplifiers. You have the basic amplifiers, CG, CS, and yeah, common drain. All three basic amplifiers you must know. And you must know their gain, their R in, R out, how to analyze R in, R out. You should know all that. In small signal analysis, basically, you should know in general small signal analysis of any MOSFET network I give you. And it will be good if you know about differential amplifiers also, basics of differential amplifiers and current mirrors. Then you have op-amp circuits. Op-amps, we have inverting, non-inverting, and then you have multiple op-amp circuits where you'll be asked to analyze the feedback around each op-amp. So you have multiple three, four op-amps in a circuit. They'll ask you which op-amp is in negative feedback, which op-amp is in positive feedback. It's not that it's always in negative feedback. Doesn't work that way. You have some circuits where op-amp is in positive feedback. You have Schmidt triggers, etc., which where there is positive. So you should know how to analyze them for feedback if there are multiple op amps. And yeah, all of this you can find them in Razavi book. And ADC DAC, I would recommend you just read it in the last minute. It's not an important topic because the rest of the topics itself will take all of your time. So please don't concentrate on ADC DAC. They won't really ask you. So mainly you should know about RC circuit analysis, MOSFETs and op amps and feedback. That's it. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, there are two companies that come to our college for communication profile. So one of them is Geo. I didn't apply for Geo because I'm a triple E student. They didn't allow me to apply. And then you have Qualcomm RFSW. It's not called communication as such. It's called RF software. You have Qualcomm. You have three profiles actually. You have digital, you have software, and then you have RF software. So RF software is the communication profile. So I'll just give you a brief overview of what you can expect in communication profile. Communication profile is basically like coding only, but it's not competitive coding. It's like you're doing coding for a communication, channel. So you will need to know all those concepts in digital communications that they were taught to you. mainly FMAM. These are analog communication, FMAM and all. And then digital communication concepts would also be useful if you're actually targeting these companies. You just need to know the basics. They won't go into the details. You just need to know the basics. In the interview also, they'll ask coding questions and not communication questions. Communication questions, you can expect just the basic, very, very basic questions. Mainly they will be on coding, and coding again, it will not be like the one Anand said. There will be no competitive coding. It will be like they'll test you on the syntax and basic stuff in coding. So that's on the communication profile. So yeah, and test will also have coding and basic communication questions, very basic. So it'll be the same, the interview and test. So if people who are interested can go for it. And then you have electrical. Electrical, you have around 4 companies coming for it: Jaguar, Bajaj, and Ola Electric, and Enphase Energy. So in electrical, it's not that just triple E students are allowed. Even EC students can get into these profiles, provided they just know the basics. If you know at least the basic of different power electronic converters, that is enough. You don't need details of electrical machines also. Electrical machines is taught to triple E students, and so is power electronics. But if EC students are really interested, they can just read power electronics and little bit of software, so that companies like Jaguar and Bajaj, they give these mixed roles called hardware software. So there you will just need a little knowledge on power electronics and how to use MATLAB and all, and then some good level of coding in Python or C++, anything. So that will actually give your chance in Jaguar also. It's not that it's a triple E only company and uh, and EC people are not allowed. So you're losing this chance for core. It's not like that. So you can apply for these companies, provided those 2 conditions which I just said. So you can prepare. Power electronics is a very, very easy topic. You don't need to put some real effort. It's a very easy topic. You can get YouTube videos. Anyone can make a YouTube video on it. So you can watch any YouTube video. And then software is what everyone knows. So that's about these preparation and resources. Logical reasoning and puzzles, I won't really go into the details. It's a common thing. So can we go to the next slide? Yes, these are some useful sites. Majority of them are digital. No, actually, all of them are digital. Just because we have more companies coming in digital. So you can just refer to them anytime. You have many puzzles in this. You have many topics. I think some some websites also cover tree adders. I don't remember which one, but you can explore all of these websites. You will find tree adders in one of them, and that was really good when I read it. And yeah, timing analysis. If you want to work on projects also in the last minute, which I don't encourage, but yeah, you can visit these websites. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, so we'll talk about test experience. If you come to Intel, Qualcomm, and Micron also, I didn't mention Micron here. So Intel, Qualcomm, Micron, it's just a normal MCQ test. You'll have a logical section. You'll have a coding section. Coding section has very basic questions. So I would encourage people to go through basic concepts of coding, or ask your software related friends to teach you some basic concepts, very basic, like um, you know the syntax, and then oops concepts, basic ones. And sometimes they go into OS. It's fine even if you don't score full marks in that. No, they don't really care. I didn't attempt the questions. There are around 10. I just attended 3 or 4, and I still got through. Then you have the hardware questions. So they ask very easy questions actually. In Intel, Qualcomm, and Micron, they ask very straightforward questions. If you have just read Morris Mano, you can get through the entire test. They ask some, yeah, there in each company's test, you have some 2-3 questions which are kind of, I don't know what to call them. They are very vague. So they'll be related to some topic which you have never seen in life. So I would say just don't get scared looking at those questions. If you have read it, then well and good. But there are some questions which you have never seen in your life also. Those topics, they are actually VLSI topics which are from industry level. So if you want to read those topics, I know where to read them. Okay, but they are not our priority. So you please concentrate on the ones I said. After you're done with it, then you can ask me. I can give you those resources as well. So that's about those. And NVIDIA, ADI actually doesn't visit our college anymore, so forget ADI. You have NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually, yeah, you have some good, like good level digital questions. You'll have to put some brain into it. Yeah, the topics will be very diverse. You'll be asked on cache, pipelining, and normal digital puzzle type questions. In digital, you will be asked puzzles. Basically, you'll be given an FSM or some kind of questions like that. You'll be asked to solve puzzles. So that's about NVIDIA. TI test, I think whoever has given the internship test will know how TI asks, be it digital or analog. It will be the exact same type of paper you'll see again. In fact, they'll repeat the questions also from your internship. So if you're remembering them, well and good, or else you can talk to me later on that if you want some test questions. So yeah, TI highly little difficult. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, for JLR, you'll again have three sections. One is the aptitude section, which is very easy. Actually, they give, I think they're just copying CAT questions. So if you're preparing for MBA or something, you can they just exactly copy the CAT questions. Actually, they don't change anything. So yeah, they're for aptitude, that's what they're doing. And for software, they actually give you two questions. For the power electronics role, they give you two questions. One is an easy question, one is a hard question, or I think three. I don't know, two or three questions. If you just solve the easy one, that is enough. And the easy one is actually very easy. I didn't do any coding in my entire 6 months, but I still could solve that easy question. So if you are able to solve the easy question, you'll go through. So you don't need to. You just don't look at the tough one also. Don't put your time on it. Just solve the easy one and concentrate and put your time on the hardware questions. And in JLR, the thing is your questions will be, like they'll progress in terms of your performance. If you are answering, you'll have questions in three levels: easy, medium, and hard. The first one will be easy, so it'll progress in that way. If you make a mistake in the hard question, the next question will be medium level. If you make if you go wrong in the medium level, you'll come back to this easy level. So that's how the test is. So all of you will not get the same questions. It depends on your individual performance. So that's just, I'm giving you a heads up about that. It's going to be easy, and yeah, so you don't need to worry about that. For Bajaj, Ola Electric, and MathWorks, all three give you so trivial questions, and you don't even need to put your brain. You can quickly now finish the test. You'll have aptitude, you'll have then English, I think, for some of them, and then technical. In technical, there will be no particular topic like electrical or analog or digital. They'll cover everything. They'll cover communications also. So, but all will be easy. So you can actually score full marks in these tests. Um, Bajaj, Ola Electric, and MathWorks. General Electric is not visiting, so you can ignore that. Then you have Enphase Energy. Enphase Energy will give you some vague questions and some unrelated questions also. So don't be scared. Just try to understand and just solve it. That's it. So next slide, please. Yeah, there's another company called Sterlite that visits our campus. So again, the questions will be very general. There is no particular topic. The role is actually digital related role, but the questions FPGA basically, but the questions will be very general. So in the test, you will find all sorts of questions from BJT, MOSFET, communications, and normal network analysis, everything. Yeah, but in the interview, they'll mainly concentrate on digital. So yeah, this is basically, I think I've covered all companies' test experience. Yeah, and the interview level. Yes, next slide, please. Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can ask right now, or you can contact Kirtivasan. He's the god of digital actually. So you can contact him, or you have Ujjwala, who's really good at electrical. She's now at Jaguar. Kirtivasan is at NVIDIA. And yeah, you can contact Ujjwala if you have any doubts in electrical. And you can contact me for any general type of stuff for analog, digital, electric. I know little in everything. So yeah, that's the end. So thank you.
Thank you, Surya Bhaiya. Uh, so if you have any, so you can type that in the chat. So next up, we'll be having the Quant profile, and this will be covered by Ritvik Bhaiya. So Ritvik Bhaiya, you can unmute yourself.
Am I audible? Can someone just attest?
Yes, Bhaiya, you're audible.
Okay, good. So hello everyone. So I'm Ritvik Ganguly and I got an internship offer in JP Morgan Quantitative Research, which then got converted to full-time offer. So I would be actually talking about the internship experience, like the test experience that I had, and I also talked to a lot of my friends about the test they had. But on top of that, if you'd like to actually get sense of what actually came in the placement as well, so I would suggest you talk to some of the people who have given the test as well. Like you can talk to Smita or maybe Samat afterwards, who is coming for data science. But yeah, I talk about what all they ask in the test and how the interview goes from my perspective only. So in maths, basically the topics that they cover most of all is probability, statistics, a little bit of inferential statistics, a little bit of linear algebra, because linear algebra is needed in a lot of stuff in what we do in the normal day-to-day job, and a little bit of class 12 maths as well. Then because the most of the work in our firm goes on in Python, so if you have good grasp of Python coding knowledge, it is preferred, but I will actually focus on the fact that it is preferred, not compulsory. So even if you have good grasp of C++ knowledge, that will do, because I myself had almost very basic level of Python knowledge when I got an intern, so that is not a deterrent. But yeah, if you have good Python coding knowledge, it is preferred. Then this is very essential, because a lot of people think that quant jobs means there's not much requirement for data structures and algorithms, but that is a myth. So I would like to quash that myth, because they require a good grasp of DSA topics, especially the topics like graphs and dynamic programming. And I'd come to the specific section later on as well. And then in interviews, the approach to solving problems is emphasized, which again I would talk about in the later one. Please change the slide. Hello. Hello, can someone change the slide, please? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so this is the most important part of any quant role. So which is probability, and probability. any of the firms that come in, be it whether like it is JPMC or GS or even the HFT firms that come in for quant roles, probability is the most important topic that you'll have to be very, very, very adept at. So by probability, I mean mainly how to solve for questions regarding expectation values, then conditional distributions, joint probability distributions, and a little bit of Markov chain knowledge as well. Because in firms like JPMC, GS, a lot of the mathematical models rely on calculating probability of very complicated stuff. So what they require in these interviews and also in the coding test is that you are very much adept at analyzing a problem and then trying to figure out the approach to the problem. So probability is very important, and for that you have to complete 51 challenging problems in probability. Now here's a caveat in this. Previously, whenever someone used to ask me how to prepare for quant roles, I used to tell them complete 51 challenging problems in probability and you would be done. Like, it's a very good book, and most of the companies used to give questions from this only. So a lot of times even the questions were ditto from this book. But now the companies have also become intelligent, so now they are not giving from that book, but solving problems in this book would actually help a lot, because the questions that still come in the tests, they are more or less of the same kind as the questions in this book. And also the solution, the approach to the solution that is there in this book, they help you figure out what all areas of probability you are not very good at. Like for myself, I had a weak point in calculating expectations, especially in cases where there were joint expectation and conditional expectation. So by doing this book, I just not only did the questions in this book, but then I tried to figure out the conceptual topics which went into solving these problems on the side. So that is why this book is very, very important. 51 challenging problems in probability. Now I think it has 56 problems, but yeah, the name is 51 challenging problems. The second resource is BrainStiller. So now you're in college, so you'll have to use VPN. That is very ridiculous, but yeah. BrainStiller won't open in our college net, but you can use VPN to access the BrainStiller website, and there you can solve both the puzzles, because puzzles also come for quant interviews and in some tests as well, but mostly the probability section of BrainStiller, that is also very, very essential. And some of the questions in BrainStiller are actually taken word for word from 51 challenging, so the solutions there might also help you get a different outlook to how to solve these problems. So these are the two main resources for solving questions. But now for conceptual knowledge, just like this is probably the most important conceptual resource you have out there, which is Stat 110. Some of you guys might have already completed it, so you would need only revision. But for those of you who haven't, I suggest you go through Stat 110. You might do it 2x just like we did for all online classes. But yeah, make sure that you understand the concepts behind the problems that you'll be solving in the 50 challenging problems and in BrainStiller. Or there's a section for JPMC specifically. I don't remember about GS and other companies, but for JPMC specifically, there's a section which contains maths from class 12 level, like coordinate geometry, logarithms, AP, GP, calculus, these kind of stuff. Yeah, coordinate geometry is very annoying to go through again because we don't have any requirement in our college. But yeah, I think you might have to revise because this is one section in quant that comes in for JPMC QR specifically. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Okay, so now comes the second most important part after probability, which is coding. So as I mentioned previously, that a lot of people have this myth that for quant roles you won't require that much coding. That is true to some small extent, but the main part is you need to have a very good grasp of the concepts. Yeah, of course, the questions that come for the test and also for the interviews are not of that difficult level as for other SD companies, because SD companies focus specifically on the coding. But here you need to have a very good grasp of graphs, dynamic programming, then trees. And also for interviews specifically, I have heard from a lot of people at my firm, those who actually come for the interviews, that they focus a lot on linked list, queues, structures, all of these, which are required, because although we do much of our programming in Python, a lot of the design language includes structures and queues and all those stuff. So that's why they focus on this stuff, and they try to expect that all of this you would be very good at. So for this, I think interview bit and lead code would be enough. GFG you can use for company specific questions like GS and JPMC and all those stuff. But yeah, lead code should be very essential. Like for internships, interview bit is more or less enough, but for placements, I would suggest lead code also is very essential, because the questions are structured in a lot different, better way, and people have told that lead code, by preparing lead code, they have found coding to be a lot more easier for them. So that is about the coding section of it. In the test, as far as I remember, during the internship, there were 2 questions. I am expecting during placements also they give 2 questions in tests only, which are not that very difficult. But unless you have a good grasp of the basics, you won't be able to do that. And the problem with quant companies, or maybe the good thing about quant companies, is that they expect you to solve both of those questions. And then the differentiating factor becomes maths. So at least try to solve both of those questions, because they won't be that difficult. Prepare graphs and trees very well, because most of the graphs, trees and DP, because most of the questions that they come are from DP. So that is a very good aspect of it. So if you can solve both of them, you have a very good chance of qualifying for the interviews, because maths is of such a level that it becomes the differentiating factor in the end. Then for the fundamentals, I think there is a section on CS fundamentals as well. So for CS fundamentals, as far as I remember, there is a Geeks for Geeks page wherein I studied myself from that about operating systems, about database management, as well as for networks. So specifically, there are pages for that with hyperlinks relating to each of the topics. So if you can, go through each of those hyperlinks, you won't get a very detailed idea of all of it, but in the little bit of time that you have, because I'm expecting right after the midsem break, your tests would start, and in almost all of the tests, you would have CS fundamentals, depending on the role you're preparing for. So for CS fundamentals, if you have a little bit of knowledge, or maybe you don't, you can follow these GFG links. They more or less teach you about the concepts on a broader definition. So these are the topics that you mainly need to prepare: OS, DBMS, and a little bit of networks. Networks, again, not very essential for quant companies, but OS and DBMS they expect, because in a lot of quant companies, the work that they do is also in SQL, not in JP, but in a lot of companies they do in SQL, so that they require a little bit of DBMS as well. Okay, so moving on to the next. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, for quant interviews. Now, quant interviews differ from the rest of the SD interviews in such a way that more often than not, they won't ask you to actually code the question. They might ask you, but more often than not, they focus a lot of questions they ask. So that's why they try to go for only like maybe the pseudocode, or maybe writing down on paper. So the most important thing that becomes then is that you can actually explain your interviewer the approach. It might be the case, okay, they ask you a question and readily you can think of the answer. Okay, I have seen this question before, and okay, I can answer readily, and you give the answer straight away. I'm telling you, I have talked to the people at my firm and also a lot of the other interviewers as well. They take it in a negative way. If you know the answer straight away, don't let them know that you know the answer straight away, because they don't focus on whether you know the answer or not. They focus on the fact that you can arrive at the answer to the question in a process that makes them think that, okay, you understand the concept. Okay, so this is a thing that I made up on the spot. Three C's, basically: be crisp, concise, and communicative. So the first thing, crisp and concise, they are more or less interrelated. So being crisp and concise means don't just continue blurting whatever is coming to your mind like I'm doing right now. You'll have to be crisp and concise and talk to the interviewers, and just, if suppose I'm giving an example from my interview. So they asked me a question which I didn't see before, so I needed a little time to figure out the approach. So what I did was I asked them the question back. Like, I repeated the question, not just repeated it, but I tried to understand what all they require from the question. So by doing that, I told the interviewer that, okay, I understood the question, I understood what it was required. And also for myself, what I did good was that in that time, I gave my mind enough time to figure out, okay, what is the approach I'm going to take. So that is how you become crisp, concise, and you let the interviewer know that, okay, this guy understands what is needed from the question, and maybe he has that quality. Okay, if I come in, if in the firm there's a problem statement, this guy will actually take the time to figure out the what is required from the problem statement and then move ahead with it. So that is crisp and concise, and also communicative. So in communicative, what happens is, a lot of the times we don't know the answer to the question, and we straight away tell them, okay, I don't know that, or don't know that. So this is actually a little bit negatory, because you are not even giving the interviewer the chance to help you, right? So whatever means, you won't be completely blank on the question, right? So when you understand the question, try to understand the question a little bit, then try to tell the interviewer, okay, this is what I understand from it, but I am facing difficulty in figuring out what to do next. Depending on the interview, I'm not saying that would happen every time, but depending on the interviewer, he or she might even proceed to help you get the line of approaching the problem. And this is actually a positive aspect of your interview, that you are communicating with the interviewer about how to proceed with the question instead of just giving up right away. This actually happened with me. That is why I can attest to it very well. I did not know the answer approach to an expectation problem. I told them that okay, I find the means I understood this I have to do, but I can't proceed because I can't seem to figure out what you know how to approach the next step. So they suggested me that you can think of it this way. So then I took that hint, and then I proceeded to solve it. And that is probably one of the main reasons I got in. So this is a very important thing. Even if you don't know the answer, communicate with your interviewer and try to get as many hints as you possibly can, and also approach, like, then proceed to solve with your approach. Now, yeah, be well prepared with your projects. And reason for choosing quant. Yeah, reason for choosing quant is a very important question that almost all the quant companies ask you, because they know while they come to the institute, they know that this is not the specific role that people generally go for. So that's why they straight away ask you, why do you want to choose quant? What all happens in quant? You have an idea. So for this, you have to talk to your seniors beforehand about what kind of work goes on in specific companies. For example, for JP Morgan, you can contact me. For GS, you can contact someone else. But yeah, and whomsoever you want to contact, talk to your seniors beforehand. So like the HR actually kind of chided me on this a little bit, that I did not get time to talk to my seniors before the interviews. So they actually find it good if you have a brief working knowledge of what the company does on a daily basis. So that's why talking to your seniors beforehand becomes very important. And sometimes you might also gain some kind of connection as well, right? So that is the best thing about it. And then this is the last aspect, which I always tell my friends, and I also helped a lot of my friends with this. Definitely have mock interviews with your friends and with your seniors. Seniors, it might be difficult because, to be honest, on our Saturdays and Sundays, we don't have the bandwidth to, take the time off for mock interviews and stuff. But sometimes, if you have good enough seniors, they can agree to help you with your mock interviews. But mostly, you can talk to your friends about taking the mock interviews. This is very important, and I have seen a lot of my friends benefit from this when I help them out with this. Uh, getting mock interviews before the actual one. Don't wait for the final days that, okay, if I get interview, then only I'll do this. No, at that point of time, nobody would be available to help you out. So maybe around 10 to 15 days before, when you start preparing for interview specifically, while your tests are going on, do this, like mock interviews with your friends. Maybe the friends are preparing along with you, or maybe they've already gotten placed with PPOs and stuff. That doesn't matter. Just have some friends take your mock interviews, because that helps a lot in getting familiar with the environment that you have. Okay, so yeah, that's it for me. I think if nobody has any questions, I'll hand it over to the next guy. And if you have any questions, I guess my number you can get from the Cepstrum people, or maybe from anyone else. You can contact me anytime. I'd mostly reply you back, but if I'm late a little bit, don't mind. But yeah, I'll mostly reply you back as soon as possible. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Cepstrum.
Thank you, Ritvik Bhaiya. So if anybody has any question, they can type in the chat box. So next up, we'll be having the data science profile, and this will be covered by Samarth Bhaiya. So Samarth Bhaiya, if you can unmute your.
Hello guys, am I audible?
Yes, Bhaiya, you're audible.
Yeah. So hello everyone. I am Samarth. I graduated last year from Electronics and Communication Engineering with a CPI of 7.8. So yep, you can get DS placement on a CPI which is less than 8, first thing. And I'm here to cover about how to target DS profiles for placements. So let's just go through how are they going to take your DS test. So they are going to be, so test patterns vary, but these are the 5 key points around which they will be testing you. So either they, so mostly like 70% of the time they will be having MCQs based on probability, statistics, inferential statistics, which is very important, linear algebra, again you should know the math, machine learning, mathematics, and the tree-based models. Those are the most important ones. Basics of deep learning, not very deep theory like attentions or something like that. They don't usually ask those in the MCQs, but you should know the basics of convolution, like, and what is the number of parameters in a model, or what are the hyperparameters for a particular model. So you should be knowing the basics of deep learning. And then there are some unsupervised algos, which are a lot. So these are the most common things which they usually ask. Then there's a quite a lot of times today, most of the companies are adapting to these things. They are going for Python coding instead of C++ style coding. So in which they are going to provide you a notebook or a code editor, and you have to code out a machine learning problem in Python, or they are going to give you a SQL server, and you have to query something and find out the results using SQL. So in Python coding, they mostly focus on pandas, numpy, and sklearn. Like they don't go to TensorFlow, PyTorch, or something like that. They never go to that. And then there are C++ style coding questions as well. Sometimes, like, it completely varies from company to company. And then the conceptual knowledge, the core mathematics, and how clear are you on the work you have done is going to be tested in interviews. And oftentimes, in the last round of the interviews, there are open-ended creative problem solvings. So, can you change the next slide? Can you change the slide? Cepstrum, you there? Yep. Yep. So these are the resources which can be helped for prepping for MCQs. So basically, probability and statistics is can be done by Stats 110. I think Ritvik might have told up a lot of things as well. So again, if you're preparing for quant, then it's a good thing, and they kind of go in hand in hand. So basically, Stats 110 is something which will provide you deep conceptual clarity on the concepts of your probabilities, distributions, and how they can be used. So that guy is an awesome teacher. Again, that's the teacher we actually expect in IITs, but we don't get. But again, you can get it on Stats 110. It's on YouTube. And then there's 50 challenging problems in probability, completely optional. But if you're prepping for quant, you have to do that. So I would say you can do it for DS as well. It opens up your mind. Then inferential stats. This is the mentioned course, stat 414. It's kind of a tedious course. You have to do stats 110 in order to do that, because it requires the knowledge of distributions and all, and you cannot do that before doing stats 110. So the stats 110 is kind of a prerequisite. Then for linear algebra, the Bible is Gilbert Strang. So either you can read the book or go for the videos. They have also got videos. So it completely depends on how you want to learn it. So I basically prefer going for books, but my another friend Rahul, who has also been placed in Microsoft, actually prefers learning it from the videos. So it's like whatever you prefer. Like which one do you like better? You can go for that. And there are a couple of courses for machine learning and deep learning basics. You can I think go through them quickly, or maybe read the notes, or like go through them completely if you are like completely targeting DS profile, not going for SD all. So then I would recommend that you should actually watch those videos, take notes and revise them at the end. And one of the most important things is that you have to have some temperament for the MCQs. First of all, MCQs are the questions which will actually save you time for rest of the questions. You are going to need more time. If you're prepping for data science and you're not prepping for SD, I'm assuming your SD is not going to be as strong as the other CSE guys or MNC guys or any other guys who are prepping for SDs. So you are going to need that time. So again, you should have good hands-on practice on quizzes. So you can find those quizzes on Analytics Vidya. You can literally Google stuff like random forest analytics with their quiz, or XGBoost analytics with their quiz, or linear regression analytics with their quiz. So you will find those MCQ quizzes. Just answer them quickly, and you will know that where are you making errors, like where are you prone to errors, and what are you thinking or not thinking. Also, concepts like overfitting and underfitting are heavily asked in the MCQs, and they are the trickiest MCQs I have ever found. So again, just be ready for them. And as far as unsupervised learning is concerned, I think you should just be reading up some of the basic algos, like the 5 or 6 algos like dbScan, hierarchical clustering, k-means. Like k-means is the very standard one. Obviously, everyone is going to expect you to know k-means at least. So you have to read up those algorithms. PCA. PCA is again very standard one. You have to know the complete math behind PCA. Should be knowing what SPD is, how it works. But these are some algorithms. But the thing is, in test, they are going to ask you some weird algorithm which you have never heard of, like no one would have heard of. So just don't panic. Just don't take a lot of stress on that. It's like no one knows that. So just don't worry about it. Give it a guess and let it go. Like there's nothing you can do about the random unsupervised learning algorithm. It's just like someone literally wrote a research paper and then they say it's my algorithm, and someone asks it out in a question paper. So there's not a lot you can do with this. But again, I would say don't stress on this. So yep, can you go to the next slide? Yep. For the Python coding part, first of all, if you have good experience with data science, it is always going to be a plus. Like it's literally that. So the thing is, the below mentioned thing, I haven't done any of them except the SQL practice. But the thing was that my hands-on experience was pretty good, so it was not necessary. But again, because but somehow I have like before my fourth year, I have actually done every one of these stuff. Like I've done OOPS in Python. I've thoroughly studied OOPS in Python because it's very much required. And I would say that having strong concept in OOPS is essential for quant, SD, and data science, all three of us. So OOPS is the kind of, you can say, the most essential stuff over there. Then you can actually, if you are not very experienced or very confident on hands-on, like very confident on dealing with Jupyter notebooks at a go, like not very confident on finishing the problems at time. So you can try out the tabular data competitions on Kaggle and just code them out quickly and just see that how fast can you actually, from the data, can you build a model and make a decent model out of it. Like try to make it in like 20 to 30 minutes, because there and it's going to take time because it's going to have a lot of bugs, and there is the part where most companies are going to test you how fast you debug that. Also, you should be kind of clear with the documentation of XGBoost, random forest, and basic sklearn and pandas functions, because they often ask you in MCQs, or sometimes you need to use them in the Python coding test, because you might need to use train test split from the sklearn, and you shouldn't be thinking about, okay, where is train test split in sklearn and how do I use it? Like that should not be a question. Also, here is a link. I think these guys will share you the slides. So from this, you can practice SQL if you don't know. And I think you might be knowing about SQL, but still, if you don't know, you can practice it from here. It's not going to take more than a day. Like I was pretty weak in SQL, so it didn't took me more than a day. So I think it's going to be even faster for you guys. So yep, again, coding. What do I tell you about coding, man? I think if you have attended the SD session, Anant would have clarified most of the ways of coding and how to make it an effective preparation. So again, you should be familiar with this. But yep, what I can tell you is that mostly data science companies are focused on arrays, dynamic programming, and graphs. Like dynamic programming with arrays is one of the favorite stuff to do. They don't usually go out for trees. If they have to go out for a tree-based structure, they will rather go for a graph, which is going to be tougher. But I haven't seen them use binary tree questions or something like that. But when I say arrays, stacks and queues are assumed. So like so these are the most things which they focus on. But yep, finish these sections on IB. Arrays is pretty good, but tough as well. Like at least tough for me. I'm not sure if you are like pro SDs or something like that, but it was tougher on the tougher side for me. Arrays, DPs, and graphs. So if you are going to be doing these, so interview it interview it is very good for this. Next slide, please. Yep. So I'm assuming that in December, if you are focusing on data science, you might be having a couple of shortlists at least. So the thing is, most of the times, from my experience and from the experience of other people, and now how I see the interviews are conducted, the interviewer has not visited your CV even once. So it's in the interview, it's the first time they are seeing your CV. So first of all, you have to be very strong on the CV. Like they are going to ask you literally anything. The first thing that comes to their mind after looking at your CV, they are going to ask you that. It can be very deep as well. It can be very shallow as well, which you have even written in your CV like you did it like that. But again, you have to be very strong on your CV. Like if you are not, so again, it's a very negative point and you cannot clear the interview. Almost every interview is going to ask you a question based on the evaluation metrics. Like I haven't been to any interview of data science. Like I've been to 6 7 interviews, but I haven't been to any interview in which they did not ask me a question related to evaluation metric. And in that also, precision, recall, ROC, AUC, F1 score, F beta score, they are their favorite metrics. So again, they are always these questions are always going to be there, and then they are going to ask you a question about how a tree based model like random forest or XGBoost or light GBM is overfitting or underfitting, and what can you do to the hyperparameter. So they are kind of going to test your knowledge on this, and most of the companies are going to ask these questions in at least one round. So yeah, as Ritvik already mentioned, mock interviews are a must. And not even just giving mock interviews, you should also take mock interviews. Like they will actually provide you some idea on how it feels like to be on the interviewer side of the things. Like what do you expect now? If you are looking at your friend's CV and you are interviewing him, you will know that what is the thought process in the interviewer's mind. So then you can actually kind of reverse engineer that thought process. What will someone feel like when they are looking at your CV, and what should you be prepared with, and how do you actually tackle the interviewer. So again, taking mock interviews is also very important, not only giving mock interviews. So this is also one thing which I think a lot of people ignore, but it's actually very good. So I was in CNA and I've taken a lot of interviews, so that actually gave me clarity on what an interviewer thinks about a person who is on the other side of the chair. So yeah, and the thing is, interviews are going to be tough. They are not going to be very straightforward like SDs. Okay, this is a problem and can you solve it? It's a coding question. It does not work like that. They are going to ask you a question, you'll answer. They will keep increasing the difficulty, and most probably there will be a point where you might not be able to answer. And if that point comes, it may be because of lack of knowledge. That's very well understood. It's not a problem because it's a vast field. So lack of knowledge is not a problem in data science. So you have to be very truthful with the interview. You have to say that, okay, I don't know this stuff, but all I know is this. This might be related to this. And I think if I'm going in the right direction, could you help me out with this? So you have to try out a collaborative approach instead of lying or blatantly just answering out anything that comes on the top of your mind. This approach would always work for you. Those approaches might throw out a bad impression, or those might be a gamble which may just pay off because maybe the interviewer was not thorough about it. But is that a risk you want to take? Like that's completely up to you. I would never recommend that risk. And obviously, if everyone has not been telling you this, I would like to again reinstate this. Prepare well for HR questions. You don't want to be the person who cleared 2 rounds of a very good company and got screwed in HR because he did not know what are his goals in 5 years, 5 years down the line. So yeah, prepare well for them. Those are very important. Like you do not want to be screwed in the HR round. Trust me, it is going to sting very bad. Yep. Next slide, please. Yep. For the open-ended kind of problems. So as it's open-ended, I might leave this stuff to use. Next slide, please. Just kidding. I'm going to explain something about open-ended stuff and how you can tackle it. Next slide. Yep. So the thing is, this is having discussions with your peers. It's one of the best thing you can do in any field you are pursuing. Like if it's SD or if it's data science or quant or design, having discussion with your peers is something very good. Like it's always encouraged, and that's the beauty of IIT. Like you get good peers to discuss stuff with you. So even we used to have some random discussions with our peers, like can we make a system which actually scans the body and maybe detect what amount of alcohol percentage is over there? Like it's completely bizarre, unimaginable, stupid problem. But again, just like randomly discussing this over a chai on Khoka, just opens up our minds. So again, it's like then we used to speak something. Oh, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that. It was completely bizarre, but still, it was opening up some creative ideas. So these are the stuff you can incorporate a habit of. You still have got like time of 2 or 3 months. You can do that. Have discussions on problems which you think haven't been solved yet, and there might be a way. And then you will hit a roadblock, so you'll know that you have to hit a roadblock, and it gets tough. So because in ML case study round, if there is one in Microsoft, I had an ML case study round, and the problem was completely new problem for me. It was an unsupervised problem. I had no idea what to do. So again, it was a very hard problem for me. So you have to be habitual with dealing stuff in which you are not comfortable. This is the only thing I would say for open-ended stuff. But yeah, there are some ML case studies to be practiced. I have given the link over here, and there was a very good blog which I found, so you can read that as well. And also, if you go and dig up the motivation for most of the researchers, like how were they inspired, like how were the LSTMs inspired, or how were the skip connections inspired in ResNets, you would know that they were actually going through some research and they got some ideas, they mixed it up, and they had some theory or proposition, and it actually worked out. In 1 out of 100 cases it does work out, in 99 it doesn't, but still it was some approach. So again, it's not about getting the stuff right in this round, it's more about how creative you are and how rational you are along with being creative. So it's more about that, and they just want to see that how do you collaborate or work on a problem in this round. So that's the uh, those are the key pointers with this round. Yep. And can I have the next slide? Okay. Okay, I think, yeah, okay. Okay, I think we are done here. We are done here. So do you have any questions?
Thank you, Samarth here. And if anybody has any question, they can please enter it in the chat box. So now, next up, we'll be having the design profile, and this will be covered by Sushant Bhaiya. So Sushant Bhaiya, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kautila. Hi, good afternoon to everyone. So I'm Sushant Timapur, a EC graduate from 2022. So currently I'm working as a product designer at Flipkart. And yes, you have heard it right. I'm an engineer, but in a design profile. So yeah, you can graduate from a BTech and also be a product designer wherever you wish you would like to be. So this is a pretty interesting field. So what I'll be trying to do here is now to kind of give you a broader view on what design is and to bust few myths which even I had before entering into design, right? So that is the reason which I kind of entered a design field after my internships. So that took me a pretty time to understand it. So I'll take this opportunity to kind of give you a broader view on what design is and then talk about my interview experience and how to prepare for it. So yeah, moving forward, please go to the next slide. Yeah, so what are these? So the left one is a greater artist, Leonardo da Vinci. So he just expressed himself through art of a woman called as Mona Lisa, and yeah, this is a pretty famous stuff from its time and known till date. And the right one is, I would like to say, just a pretty decent picture of mountains, river, and home by some child, I would like to say. So these design No, these are not design. These are just art, a piece of art. So art is, so whatever you guys might be having the myth, right? Like even I had, see, design is all about sketching, drawing, and all those stuff. But no, that's not design. That's art. Art is all about expressing themselves, and design is all about solving the user's problem. So what is design? You'll get to know more about it while we, double down on those thoughts moving ahead. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the design verticals. Like mainly you need to focus on, like if you're sitting for the design placements. So whoever will be sitting to the design placements, these are the four profiles to which the companies will come to hire: the visual design, graphic design, industrial design, and product design. So I'll kindly give you a broader view on the JDs of each of this design vertical. So first of all, visual design. So let me explain it to you guys through an example. So you might be having a very decent idea on Google Suites, right? You might be using Google Slides, Sheets, and all those Google stuffs, right? And Gmeet and all. So you might be noticing, right? Ki if I give you a screenshot of any particular screen, so you go through the screenshots and you kind of can identify ki yeah, ye to Google ka product hai. Because what Google does, or what any other firm with multiple products do, is try to maintain a very uniform and decent visual screens across their platforms, right? Very decent, up to mark, pixel perfect. So who does this? This type of job is mostly done by the visual design, who kind of maintain the brand and identity throughout their products. So that kind of broadly describes the JD of a visual designer. Now, moving next to the graphic designer. So, graphic designer, what graphic designer does is kind of a subset of visual design, right? So, again, let me explain it to you guys by the example of Google Suite only. So, I'm pretty much sure like many of you guys will be having a folder in your mobile phone just for the Google apps. So, when you click on those folder, you'll be popped out with 3 into 3 bar of the mobile apps with all the Google applications over there and the logos of it. So you can see कि कितना uniform logos होते हैं with same color and uh, so who designs those logos? That's the graphic designer. Again, he or she tries to maintain the brand value identity, and also you might have come through this beautiful illustrations, right? When you're using any product, any tech product, कि if there's an error 404 with some illustration or GIF just popping around and showing कि sorry, 404 error page not found. So some GIF and kind of improving your experience. So that's the job of graphic designer. So next, industrial design. So what an industrial designer does is, I'm pretty much sure like now you guys will be listening to me through your headphones or earphones or earbuds, etc. So these are some the industrial designers design the tangible products. So what are tangible products? Those are something you can touch, feel. So you're plugging in an earphone, and few might already been like it might be irritating for you guys to sit for a length of 1.5 hours to listen to these guys speak, right? And this might be irritating, but some very good earphones will be like you won't feel that irritating. It's a very good experience on your side to wear them and just listen to music or listen to someone speak for hours together. So that is what they try to make: a good physical product with a good experience. So that's a broader JD on the industrial designer. Now moving forward, product design. So why I have colored out this part is because first of all, I'm a product designer, and this is also popularly nowadays called as UI UX designer. That is user interface, user experience designer. So that's the first reason, because I'm a product designer, and the second reason is most of the companies which come for the design hiring hire from this particular hire for this particular role. So again, I want to double down on this role because like most of you guys who are sitting for the design placements or who are aiming to move into design will be doing this. So let me tell you an example of what a product designer does, right? So I'm pretty sure you must have been using many of the apps. Like let me take for an example Zomato, and once in 6 months or once for a quarter, like there comes an update from the Zomato side right? Which tells ki there's update for a Zomato available. So please go ahead, update now or update later. So you just go ahead and update it. And after updating, it shows what's new in the update, right? What's new in this version, all the list of features. So you're gonna enjoy those features. And like, have you ever thought ki how do they get to know ki these were the features something we were looking out for, or these are the features which we did not look out for, but we are kind of enjoying it now by using it. So this is kind of a job which a product designer does. So what product designer does is, once a product is being launched or product get launched, he does the user research on that product. He goes, he interviews the people, he tries to understand कि क्या आपको मतलब जो चाहिए था इस ऐप से, जोमेटो से फॉर एग्जांपल, क्या आपको ये मिल रहा है इस ऐप से. So he tries to understand, right? And then he comes up with a few problem statements कि हाँ लोगों को ये खराब लग रहा है, लोगों को ये अच्छा लग रहा है. So there are few pain points like कि this user is not actually enjoying this experience. This is what user expects, but he's not getting it. So these kind of stuffs. So after getting pain points, the product designer kinds of comes up with the problem, comes up with the solutions for them. They try, they ideate, they brainstorm, they do a lot of research on the existing products, how they are solving it, how can we solve it in a better way. So he does a lot of research, comes up with the solutions, and then he designs the screens. Then it's being developed, and you guys will be getting the updated version of it. Then again, this particular process, product design or UI UX design, is a reiterative process. You need to be iterating on it again and again, again and again. That is why you will be getting more and more updated version. So that is broadly a product design for you guys. So yeah, can you move to the next slide? So yeah, to all the product designers in the house or who are new to it, so this is the framework, design thinking framework. Like just now, as I explained, design is all about solving the user's problems. So the first step is like obviously to empathize with the users, to step into their shoes, to be kind of contextual, to match to their context and understand the problem. Then to define the problem, key what their problem is, to define the personas, to understand the problems, then to ideate on those problems, right? Ki what can be my solution. Then once you get the thought of like, yeah, this can be my solution, then to prototype. Prototype is nothing but design, right? Design, then to create the flows is together a prototype. Then test those designs, those solutions with the user. What's the use if you identify a problem, you design a solution, and if that is not the solution which the users are thinking or which the user want, right? Then it's of no use. Whole process is just pushed into a bin. So you need to test again, you need to iterate on that. That's a never ending process. So that is product design. Now next, moving forward, I'll share my interview experience. Okay, so yeah, next slide please. Yeah, so guys, I'd like to share the experience around Flipkart, since I'm placed in it, and I kind of remember most of the stuff. So what happened is Flipkart gave us a problem statement earlier, 2 to 3 days earlier to the interviews, to work on those problem statements. So they gave us 4 problem statement and to just work on one. So I took this particular problem statement, that is like Zomato में या Swiggy में अभी क्या होता है कि you can just order a food in a live time. You'll order a food now, and within a 40 to 30 minutes you're gonna receive a food. But what are the problem statement was कि how can I schedule a food? If I want a food for 1 month, right? For 1 month I can schedule a food for 1 month. If I want a food, suppose it's Sunday today, Wednesday at 12 o'clock, I want to schedule a food. So I want to subscribe a food package. So how can that be solved to users? So that is the problem statement which I took and I worked on. So so whoever who is sitting for the design placements, what I would like to suggest you guys is, when you're taken a design like problem statement, or you're working on your portfolios also, like it can be taken both ways. So कि दोनों भी problem statement ही है kind of. Once you get a problem statement, try to frame that problem statement in such a way that the interview gets to know that you understood the problem statement to depth. Try to understand to whom you are solving the problem for. where will they be using this particular solution which you're designing? What triggers them to use the particular product, right? And why you're designing this product. So answer this all W's and H, get a well understanding on the problem, right? So the interview must understand that you understood the problem pretty good and you have the utmost authority over the problem. So that is the first most thing that the interview is going to look up to. Till you understand the problem and explain it to them, they are not going to move forward. So that's the first step. And second step, once you understand the problem, right? So they look out for the bandwidth up to which you can bring the ideas on the table. So just think out loud. कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, वो प्रॉब्लम तुम लोग मार्स या जुपिटर या नेपच्यून जाने से सॉल्व हो रहा है. Just don't think of the scope of the solution. Just bring it on the table. Brainstorming is that's it. Think out loud. Just if that anything is going to solve your problem, just if the fastest delivery, which is going to like is a problem and it's going to be solved by teleporting a delivery agent. Great, put that down in the brainstorming this thing. That doesn't matter, right? So yeah, अभी ideation पे भी वो लोग ध्यान देंगे कि what's the bandwidth of your this thing, brainstorming and bringing the ideas into the table. And the third thing is design. So now what you have to do is while navigating from idea to design, obviously तुम लोगों के पास काफी crude base होगा कि हाँ teleport कर देंगे delivery agent and all those things. So you have to put those ideas in a funnel called a scope. Are these ideas or are these brainstorm things which I have brainstormed, are these under the scope? Like, can I teleport or can I go to Mars and no? Just bring down those ideas which can be scalable, which are under the scope, right? Then design those solutions. Design those solutions, prototype those solutions, test those solutions. Like you people are not required to kind of create those fancy screens with a good, very good UI and very good interactions. No, try to create a very precise, pixel perfect, decent screens which solves the problem and which has a very seamless flow. कि यहाँ से पॉइंट ए से पॉइंट बी एक गोल है तो इसके बीच का फ्लो काफी डिसेंट और सिंपल रहना चाहिए. सो दैट इज हाउ यू मस्ट थिंक. So that is what they look into while going through your portfolio work or while going through the design task which I have given. So that's the first interview. Now, when you move on to your second interview, so second interview were like it's kind of that would be taken by your design manager or a design leader from your whatever company which you'll be interviewing for. So what they will do is will be giving you a whiteboard task. So what whiteboard tasking is कि वो एक छोटा सा प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट देंगे तुम लोगों को कि या प्लीज सॉल्व अबाउट दिस एंड आई विल बी कमिंग बैक गेटिंग बैक इन 15 minutes. So it will be just 15 minutes. You have to think about the design tasks, like on what is the problem. You have to understand the problem, ideate it and create rough sketches. It might be a pencil sketch because it's just 15 minutes, or if you're very fast in prototyping in the Figma you can do it. So but you just have to do it in 15 minutes. Then the guy comes and then he ask you to walk them through the task which they have given, right? Then obviously that's pretty much sure कि his understanding of the problem and your understanding of the problem within 15 minutes, 15 minutes is very different. So just explain it to him कि this is a broader problem which you are given and I have broken down the problem to chunks, chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3. So in this framework of 10 to 15 minutes, whichever I'll be getting, I'll be working on just chunk 1. Then ideate on that chunk one piece of problem, work on it, then just show the flows, rough flows on your book कि AA flow है, AA flow है. Now the most important thing which you have to do here is think out loud. जब तुम explain कर रहे हो ना interview को, so try to think out on these things, think out loud कि ये कर रहा हूँ मैं, ये किस लिए किया, ये किस लिए किया, everything and all those stuff, so that they are getting to know what you're thinking. So that's one of the most important thing. And also the important thing in the second interview, that is HR round or any manager round, right? अगर तुम लोग फ्लिपकार्ट के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हो या गूगल के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हो या माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हो या एनी अदर कंपनी, ट्राई टू गेट अ प्रिटी डिसेंट नॉलेज ऑन द डोमेन. जैसे फ्लिपकार्ट हो गया ई कॉमर्स का, तो just have a knowledge about the e-commerce, guys. So उतना थोड़ा थोड़ा तो रख के जाओ कि एक्सपेक्ट करे वो लोग कि he knows some stuff about the company. And yeah, like if you guys are looking forward to get into the design, so the best resource which I would give you, suggest you guys is Behance. Open the website, just go through the design profiles, look into the case studies, and understand how things work out. And yeah, the tools, the only tool which at present also I would like to suggest you guys is just Figma. And like learn Figma, since all those resources are democratized. You'll get all those resources in the Google. Go through it, and if you guys want to have a one-on-one regarding design, if anyone is applying to design from BTech, you can just have a contact of me from Cepstrum, or just drop me a message on LinkedIn. So I'll reply to it, and I can give you a broader perspective on what it is. So yeah, that's it, guys. Any questions, you can just ping me. So yeah, thanks Kotila, thanks Cepstrum. Okay.